is right up my alley. I'll give a little brief introduction before I start, just a little bit about my background. So I'm a personal trainer and body transformation expert, which basically means I help people lose weight and get in shape. And I would say the one topic that a lot of people are confused about nowadays, especially, is nutrition. There are so many different diets out there. Nobody knows what to do anymore, how we should be eating. Should we be following the Paleolithic diet, the ketogenic diet, etc.? So I'm going to demystify a lot of these different diets out there, really showcase kind of the common threads between diets so we can see what actually works with these diets, and then go into some practical applications of knowledge in terms of having tactical, real-world stuff that we can do to start changing our health and well-being with nutrition. So the title of this workshop is Conscious Nutrition for Conscious Leadership. I love it. I would say that it's fair to say that we live in a world where we are generally unconscious on many different levels, but especially when it comes to nutrition, and very especially when it comes to leadership. And at first glance, you might be wondering, well, what does nutrition have to do with leadership? How are both of these things actually connected? Well, leadership to me is about service. It's about serving people, and it's about giving of yourself. And there's an expression I love, which is you can't give what you don't have. And if you want to be a great leader and serve people and give yourself to people and love people and support people, that really starts with filling yourself up and giving to yourself. And what better way to do that than with nutrition? Giving to yourself the nutrition that your body needs to nourish yourself, to be the best version and strongest version of yourself, to have the most that you can give as a conscious leader to the people you're serving within your community, family, and business. So nutrition, leadership, intimately connected. And I'm going to break down the key fundamentals of this nutrition so that you can be the healthiest and strongest version of yourself, to be the healthiest and strongest leader that you can be. So you might be sitting here wondering, what do I know about nutrition? Not only do I have my own private fitness studio where I have an amazing team of trainers where we work with people transforming their lives, but I myself have gone through my own transformation. So I don't have the before and after photo here, but if you just go to milesfit.com, you can find the photo. I used to weigh almost 120 pounds more than I do today. So when it comes to transformation and weight loss and sorting through nutrition, been there, done that for a long time. It took me over 5 years to transform, and I've been working with people for over 10 years to help them transform. So with that said, I want to jump right into things and talk about this dietary confusion that's going on. So many clients come in and they talk to me about what diet they should be doing, how should they be eating, what's good, what's bad, etc. And there's a reason for this confusion. It's really paralysis by analysis. We live in the best of times and the worst of times. And what I mean by that specifically is that with the internet and all the amazing information out there, we have so much at our fingertips. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because when you're consumed with information, you begin to become a little bit lost and paralyzed. So right now, what's quite popular is the ketogenic diet. Everybody's talking about that. But at the same time, we've all heard about the Paleolithic diet, South Beach diet, Atkins diet. I mean, there are literally hundreds of variations and permutations of diets out there. So we're in this age of information where we're overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, we don't take action and we don't know what to do. If you go on Amazon.com and you type in the search box, nutrition, books, and you search, you'll find that there are tens of thousands of search results, further reinforcing this idea that we're confused, right? Because if nutrition was simple, we would only need a book or two about the topic and we'd be able to sift through it and know what we need to do. But everybody has different opinions out there. And the thing that really throws a wrench into the equation is you have legitimate professionals with legitimate research and legitimate opinions who are espousing these nutritional concepts that have been practiced by people who have gotten real world results, yet we don't know what to do because there's still so many avenues and paths that we can go down. So one of the key things when trying to demystify all these diets and understand what's what is to look for what diets have in common and what actually works when it comes to nutrition. Because whether you're eating high protein, high fat, low carb, high carb, whatever, there are certain key principles that really cause diets to work. So one of the key things that you need to be successful when it comes to nutrition is controlling how much you eat, food amount. So how much you're eating really will determine and dictate what happens at the level of your body weight, body composition, and health. So most of us in our society are over consuming food. And as the years go by, we're generally putting on more and more weight and getting out of shape and not putting ourselves in the best health situation possible. So regulating food amount is definitely a challenge, but all diets across the board, whether you're doing the ketogenic diet, the Atkins diet, the paleo diet, the South Beach diet, all of these different diets promote eating in a balanced way and eating a balanced amount of food that puts you in this calorie deficit, which allows you to actually lose weight and be in shape, right? Because if you're eating too much food, I don't care what you're eating, you're going to put your body in fat storage mode versus fat burning mode and versus putting yourself in an optimal metabolic state. So food amount is key, and that is universal across all nutrition plans. You can't just eat whatever you want in whatever quantities. The second thing that all diets have in common, food type. So really every single diet out there focuses on quality foods, whole unprocessed foods that come from Mother Nature. This is the second thread that is common across all diets that are out there. So again, whether you're doing the ketogenic diet or the paleo diet, etc., all of them are focusing on these whole unprocessed foods that are rich in fibers, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, and good quality proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Now, the third thing, and this is very relevant to conscious nutrition, that these diet protocols bring to the table is awareness. And that's really the number one thing that I would say comes with successful nutrition, bringing awareness to what you're doing. Most of us are operating on autopilot. We're eating food just to get by in our day, to do whatever tasks we have to do, but we're not fully present and aware with what we're consuming. So as soon as you start a nutrition protocol of any kind, I don't care what kind it is, you are automatically bringing awareness into the equation about what you're putting in and consuming in your body. As soon as you bring that awareness to the equation, now you can regulate and modulate what is going into the organism, what's going into the system. And by virtue of that fact, you're going to regulate how much food you're eating, food amount, which will dictate and determine your metabolism and your weight loss goals. At the same time, it's going to alter the quality of the food going into your system because you're focusing on consuming these foods that this diet prescribes. Therefore, you're focusing on that whole nutrition. So those three things, just to summarize quickly, food amount, food type, and awareness, those are the three pillars that really bring you results regardless of what dietary protocol you're following. Okay, very, very important to understand the principles because different diets are just the superficial level and layer of things. Okay, so those are the reasons why diets work and why you can point to anybody anywhere who has literally done any diet and achieved the result. It's because of those three common pillars. Now, let's flip the coin for a second here and talk about why diets don't work. Because when I said that diets work, there's a caveat to that. Diets work for the most part in a short-term fashion, okay? The research is very clear. 90% of diets fail long-term, okay? Most diets, if not all, work in the short term. But here's the thing. Life is not about the short term. Life is about cultivating yourself and having this journey and achieving results that are lasting and sustainable. So really at the end of the day, we are in a marathon, not a sprint. And this doesn't just go for nutrition, this goes for the whole culture. So most of us were running out of the gate, guns a-blazing, sprinting, thinking it's a sprint, i.e. following some type of restrictive dietary protocol, but we're crashing and burning because the name of the game is longevity and the name of the game is marathon. So if you enter a baseball arena and you think you're playing soccer, you're not really going to get anywhere. And that's why 90% of these dietary protocols are failing, because they're founded in short-term thinking and short-term principles, not long-term thinking and long-term principles. So going back to this notion of awareness, you need to be aware the nature of the game, the context of the situation. You need to be aware that you're in a marathon and not a sprint. And once you have that awareness, you can shift your paradigm about how you're approaching nutrition and not follow the familiar path of going on some type of short-term dietary protocol to get a short-term result, but shift your thinking and perspective and adopt a new way of looking at the world where you're going on a journey. You're going down a path of transformation where you're trying to change who you are fundamentally and your relationship to food. And by doing that, actually achieve long-term and sustainable results. So these dietary protocols that exist, they're not sustainable. And the best way to test that theory, if you're following a way of eating right now, is to ask yourself the question, can I see myself eating this way in 2 years? If the answer is no, you know right away that however you're eating, no matter how good you think it is setting yourself up for failure. Because ultimately the way you need to eat is in a way that you can sustain, right? So that question of, can I see myself eating this way in 2 years is a powerful question, because immediately when you have that feedback that the answer is no, you know you're in the wrong ballpark and you need to change your approach and change how you're looking at nutrition and what you're consuming in your body. The second reason why diets don't work and why people fail is that they focus on exclusion. So they focus on eat these things, but don't eat these things. As soon as you say don't eat anything, especially foods that you genuinely want to consume, again, you're setting yourself up for tremendous failure, because ultimately you're going to encounter those foods that you were told not to eat. And what's going to happen when you inevitably eat those foods? Because it's inevitable. Number one, because you labeled them as bad and the diet told you you couldn't eat them, you're going to feel guilt and shame as soon as you consume them. And those are two deep, powerfully rooted emotions that go back to our childhood that really affect us on a negative level. So you're going to consume those foods inevitably that you shouldn't eat. And after you feel that guilt and shame, usually what's following is some binging on a variety of foods, those foods included. And in addition to that, you're going to go totally off track with your nutrition and fall off the wagon. And when you fall off the wagon, you're going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 steps back. And then it's going to be really hard to start back up again and get back on track, which is why we have this yo-yo dieting and yo-yo nutrition, which is what 90% of people experience in the modern world when it comes to regulating their weight, being healthy, and regulating their nutrition. We're getting results, doing a diet, then we lose those results. Then we get results, and we lose those results. And we're in this perpetual state of losing weight and gaining weight. And the funny thing is that millions of pounds are lost on a yearly basis, but millions of pounds are not kept off. And that's the whole point of this nutrition. It's how do I achieve a result nutritionally? How do I be healthy for the long term in a sustainable fashion? So when you focus on excluding food and having an unhealthy relationship with food, you inevitably set yourself up for failure and set yourself up for that yo-yo diet zone, where you're going to be in this perpetual state of getting nowhere, even though you feel like you're spinning your tires. It's just you don't realize that your tires are spinning, but you're not actually getting anywhere, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years go by, and you're the same person, or 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 pounds heavier, and you're wondering, how is this possible? I've been following these different diets. Well, you've been following them, but you haven't been able to sustain them, and that's the problem. So the third thing, and third reason why diets don't work, is we try and fit a plan on top of a person. So we say, here's a way of eating, follow this. But who's the person? What's their story? What's their lifestyle? What's their body type? What are their tendencies, likes and dislikes? Those fundamental components really will determine and dictate whether a plan works. If I give you the perfect nutrition protocol to follow, but it doesn't mesh and jive with how you lead your life, it doesn't matter how good the plan is. It doesn't matter if it's the best plan in the world. It's going to fail. So most people are trying to put themselves and their life and their lifestyle into a plan, but it doesn't work because it doesn't mesh, it doesn't jive, it doesn't sync up. And that's why those things aren't working. So there's so many reasons why these diets fail. And what I find fascinating and somewhat perplexing is why we as human beings keep going back to these diets that don't work. And this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. And I've come to the conclusion that human beings really value certainty. We've all heard the expression that, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And we'll follow some type of dietary protocol because we know that it's going to work, even though in the back of our minds, we know it's only going to work temporarily. We would rather explore that avenue of certainty, even though the results are going to be short-lived and temporary, versus pursue a new way of doing things in a new paradigm that is in unventured and uncertain territory, but ironically, that might be the actual zone that will take us to where we want to be. So we'll go down this path perpetually on an ongoing basis that leads us nowhere and leads us stuck versus exploring this new territory. So fundamentally, diets don't work and they're not the right approach. So the question then becomes, what does work, right? How do we actually get results? That really is the name of the game, okay? And this really requires that we take a look at nutrition from a different perspective. And it boils down fundamentally to your relationship with food and who you are. And this is a powerful thing that I want to talk about today. Diets are at the superficial level, right? Paleo diet, ketogenic diet, Atkins diet, South Beach diet, whatever, okay? But fundamentally, you take you to whatever diet you go to, okay? So if your relationship with food is dysfunctional and your beliefs about food are dysfunctional, then you're going to take yourself, no matter where you go, to those diets. And the glove will not fit because you haven't taken care of the source. You haven't taken care of yourself, and you haven't really taken care of the essence of what needs to feed in to the nutrition that you're doing. So it really all starts with you and that relationship to food. And most of us in our society have classified certain foods as good and certain foods as bad. And this is where fundamentally the problem lies. Because as I alluded to earlier, as soon as you label a food as bad, you have that unhealthy relationship with food. And when you inevitably consume those foods, you're going to go into that shame guilt pattern that's going to lead to binging, that's going to lead to falling off track and going down this dark chasm and rabbit hole that's going to keep you in the cycle that so many people suffer from, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So again, we need a new paradigm shift. And this is one that is rooted in your relationship to food. So my number one rule when it comes to being successful in nutrition, to nurture yourself and take care of yourself and be the best leader you can be, is to have an all-inclusive relationship with food, which means food is neither good, food is neither bad, food is food, and you are accepting of all food, okay? So some people right away are saying, wait a second, you're saying that I should accept into my life pizza and hamburgers and ice cream? And my answer for long-term sustainable results is yes, absolutely. Don't push any food away, because when you push on something, that thing is going to come back to push on you. So just the belief that there are bad foods and that you must stay away from certain foods, that belief in and of itself will shackle you and hold you back from actually getting the real results that you want. So tip number one, how to get results, it's to have an all-inclusive, healthy and positive relationship with food and say no to nothing. And the funny thing is, when you say no to nothing, you invite hamburgers and pizza and ice cream and whatever it is you want that's quote unquote bad into your life, is funny enough, you're not going to want it as much. Human beings are really interesting creatures. When we say no to something, we want it. But when we say yes to something, we don't want it as much. So it's this psychological hack, so to speak, when it comes to your relationship with food that will actually allow you to settle in and embrace these foods versus to perpetuate negative cycles of yo-yo dieting. So that's one of the tips. The second thing is really to understand fundamentally who you are, to really take a moment to say, who am I? What are my likes and dislikes? What kind of life do I lead? How stressed am I? This is really important, because when you become aware of who you are fundamentally and your lifestyle, now you can start to look at nutrition and make sure that the two match. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're somebody who lives a very hectic life. You're working 80, 90 hours a week. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, that's totally cool. But you have to find a way of consuming food that works for you within the context of your lifestyle. So if you're somebody that's living this hectic lifestyle, perhaps the idea of having small, frequent meals spread throughout the day is not the best approach, even though we've all been told that you have to eat small, frequent meals throughout the day. We're told this is kind of a global recommendation, but how can you make a global recommendation when we are all individuals and we have all these different lifestyles and factors and body types and likes and dislikes? So in the case of someone who's very busy, who's working 80, 90 hours a week, who doesn't have time for small, frequent meals, perhaps a protocol like intermittent fasting, where you skip meals and you focus on eating within a smaller window of time, for example, eating a later lunch or just 2 meals, a lunch and a supper, for example, would be a better approach. So it's not, okay, I should eat small, frequent meals. Let me figure out a way to do that. It's, wait, who am I and how am I leading my life? And how can I make nutrition work for my lifestyle? And that's really a secret. It's making food work with you, having a harmonious relationship versus imposing a plan on yourself. So that's the second thing, really understanding fundamentally who you are and working with that, having that conscious awareness. Another huge pillar to how to get results is to go back to that marathon mentality. So thinking long-term versus short-term. We live in this nanosecond culture. We all want results now or yesterday. I mean, who wouldn't want to get in shape, lose weight, be fit, and be healthy in this immediate moment? But the fact of the matter is, anything worth achieving takes time. And there are certain habits and rituals that you need to build and cultivate. And to do that, there's a process, there's a journey. So although we want things now, we have to realize in order to get results when it comes to our nutrition and well-being, that the name of the game is long-term, that we have to think long-term. We have to shift our perspective. And with thinking long-term, a powerful word comes into the equation, which is patience. And this is one of the things we lack today. We lack patience because of this nanosecond culture, because we have information at our fingertips and we want everything now. So we have to invite into our lives this notion of a journey of transformation, this notion that it's a process, that it takes time, that we have to think long-term and embrace things and be our own experiment and see what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Because while navigating the waters of nutrition and figuring out how to fit certain foods and nutrients and likes and dislikes to us and our lifestyle, we're going to have to play that out. And that's a long-term game. You can't figure that out in a couple of weeks. That takes months and months and months. And really to hone and get down a good system for you can even take years. And in my own case, having lost almost 120 pounds, that didn't take me a month or 2 months or 3 months. It took me 5 years. I had successes, I had failures, I had triumphs, I had falling off track. I mean, you name it. That's the name of the game. And of course, you can shorten the learning curve by working with a qualified professional, someone who can show you the path from point A to point B so you don't have to make those mistakes. And that's what we do at my personal training studio here in Montreal. We take people who are a bit lost and confused with all the conflicting information out there, and we help get them on the path to get them to where they want to be by giving them the key information so that they don't have to sift through the thousands of bits of conflicting information. But anyway, so going back to this long-term thinking, and patience and really enjoying the journey, this is something that's crucial, and it's something that's not being talked about, right? Because all books that are coming out now and all blogs are about what's the next diet. And right now it's the ketogenic diet. That's the hot topic du jour. But everybody's missing the point. Everybody's missing the point. You have to change the way you look at the world, your paradigm shift. You have to think long-term and about the journey. But most people don't want to hear that. Most people that come into my office looking to change their life when it comes to nutrition, they're saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but how should I eat? What's the diet I should be following? That's the wrong approach. It's really shifting your perspective on things and looking at the process. Now, on the same wavelength of thinking long-term and patience, what goes hand in hand with that is this notion of less is more. And this is really critical. When you're doing a diet is fundamentally a very complex process. You know, we don't think of it like that. We use the word diet, but you're changing radically how you're approaching food. You're excluding foods, you're including foods. You have to do meal preparation, groceries, cooking. You have to be so aware of what you're doing for breakfast, lunch, supper, snacks. I mean, it's quite a complex process. And we adopt it as if it were this easy thing to implement, and it's not. And that's why when it comes to New Year's resolutions, everybody says, I'm going to lose weight, and they follow some strict dietary protocol, but they crash and burn because a diet is fundamentally a complex process. It's advanced calculus. It's, if you want to even put it in other terms, it's like quantum physics. It's very complex. But how can you grasp a notion and implement it if it's that complex, if you haven't mastered the basics? So I always tell my clients, you have to go back to basics. You have to look at nutrition from basic arithmetic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And you have to master that level. And once you've mastered that level, you go to the next level, which is perhaps algebra. And then you have to master that level. And then you get to advanced calculus. And then you get to quantum physics and theoretical mathematics. There's this progression, but everybody's jumping to a diet. Everybody's jumping up here, and they crash and burn because the fundamentals and foundation have not been established and set up. So I invite you to explore this idea of diets not working and going back to the fundamental level to rebuild yourself, which starts with that relationship with food, which starts to looking at how you're labeling foods, and to realize that foods should not be labeled good as bad, that you should really have an all-inclusive approach to food that focuses on you, your lifestyle, your likes and dislikes, your body type, etc., and building things up slowly in a less is more fashion, going up on the rungs of the ladder, working your way up in that journey, getting to the point where you achieve mastery. And the level of mastery is what we never achieve with diets, because diets don't promote mastery. Diets promote jumping in and radically shifting things without building those habits and rituals. So the way you boil things back down and work on going back up is with a less is more mentality. And that's really how you are successful with this nutritional game. And these are things, again, people aren't talking about, and I'm super passionate about, because I'm in the name of the game of transformation, right? Short-term transformation, it's kind of an oxymoron, because transformation is long-term. So when I'm working with clients, and I've been doing this for over a decade, I've become obsessed with how do we actually get people to change? Because nutrition fundamentally is not that complex. There are carbs, there are proteins, there are fats. That's it. There are no magical nutrients and superfoods and super mysterious ways of eating. You know, we're all waiting for that next diet. Like, what's that thing that's going to change it? It doesn't exist. It's not there. The food is there. It's just making the food work for you. And then what's funny is when you figure out one day how food works for you, and you actually sit there and say, okay, I'm eating these carbs, these proteins, these fats, and you actually analyze it. And if you were to look at the macronutrient profile and take a look at things deeper, you'd say, oh, this looks like, for example, the paleo diet, or this looks like the ketogenic diet. It will look like some type of diet. A diet is just a label of how food is paired together. But instead of going to the diet, work on integrating food into your life and focus on that. And then it will inevitably have some type of label because it'll fall into one of the 100 categories that exist. But don't go to the diet. Just look at food, work food with you in your life. And then that's the secret to achieving long-term success with food. So a lot of people, when I do a talk on nutrition, they're like, okay, I'm going to find out now when Miles is speaking about what I should be eating for breakfast, or what should I be doing for lunch, or are carbs the devil, or is it okay to have carbs, and should I be having breakfast in the first place? Should I be fasting, etc.? There's no right or wrong answer. That's my answer to those things. All of those things are right. It's just they're right for some people and they're wrong for other people. Again, it's about fitting the glove to the person. So to bring things kind of full circle and give some practical, tangible, and concrete things that you can do, I'm going to just briefly talk about this less is more concept and give you guys some items that you can start focusing on. So research is very clear when it comes to change science. If you try and do too many things too fast, you're going to crash and burn. So less is more. You got to focus on doing fewer things. That's number one. Then the question becomes, what do you focus on? And that's the great question. Well, to figure out what you need to do in order to be somebody that's healthier and stronger and following a better nutrition protocol, you have to focus on your weak link, okay? A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. If you can identify the weakest nutritional link in your chain, you're gonna get the biggest bang for your buck and move the fastest along the spectrum of getting from where you are to where you want to be nutritionally, health-wise, and weight control-wise. So asking that question, what is my weak link when it comes to nutrition? Identify that and focus on that one thing until mastery. Okay, so here's the secret. You don't want to do 4, 5, 6, 7 things. You don't want to do a radical diet. You want to identify your weakest link nutritionally, and you want to focus on that one element until you've successfully mastered it for 21 to 30 days. In other words, 3 to 4 weeks, or basically a month. Once you've done one thing for 1 month, you know that you've successfully mastered that thing and you have it under your belt, so to speak. And at that point, you can focus on your next weakest link and go to the next part of the equation that you need to work on and work on that for 21 to 30 days. So instead of thinking of diets, think of nutrition as rituals and focus on elements 1 month at a time until mastery. Okay, this is totally a different way of looking at things, but the research is clear. When you focus on one thing at a time and you do things slowly, not only will you get results that maybe right out of the gate are a little bit more slow, but you will have exponential results long-term and sustainable results long-term. So now I'm going to tell you what the 3 key weak links are for most people. And when I say most people, I'm generalizing a little bit here, right? When it comes to nutrition, well-being, everything really needs to be personalized and customized. But in my experience working with clients for over 10 years, I've seen 3 key pillars that are the habits that we need to focus on when it comes to mastery. The first one is hydration. And I know this sounds a little bit boring, right? We've all heard drink more water. We are water beings. 2/3 of the human body is made up of water. Every chemical reaction in your body requires water. So asking yourself the question, am I drinking enough water? If the answer is yes, well, this is not the habit and ritual for you to focus on. But if the answer is no, this is a great place to start, because don't even think about carbs, proteins, and fats until you've mastered hydration, until you've mastered water, which is fundamentally what you are. And when it comes to water, just to give you a couple numbers, you should be consuming half your body weight in ounces of water, which for your average human being works out to be about 2 liters. So if you're not consuming 2 liters, again, don't focus on carbs, proteins, fats, fasting, ketogenic diet, etc. Master that one thing, 21 to 30 days. Obsess and focus on water until you've mastered it. Okay, so hydration is the number one thing. The second thing that a lot of people need to focus on is breakfast. Most people are not eating in a way in the morning that serves them. that serves their physiology and metabolism. What you eat first thing in the morning really determines and dictates a lot of your neurotransmitters for the whole day, your metabolism for the whole day, your cravings for the whole day, your blood sugar fluctuation regulation for the whole day. So we've all heard the way you start your day is the way you finish your day. So most people are not starting their day correctly. So what I've seen for a lot of people who have mastered water, the habit that you want to focus on for 21 to 30 days is breakfast mastery. Eating a good quality breakfast first thing in the morning to set yourself up to win for the day. And as a general rule, and it's a general statement, eating some type of breakfast that is higher in protein, lower in carbohydrates, and higher in healthy fats will serve you more. Again, general rule, it will help keep your blood sugar level stable. Also, most people are under consuming protein. Protein is the building block of your body. So getting that extra protein in the morning is essential. And healthy fats, most people aren't consuming enough. And fats and protein combined give your body a lot of nutrition in the morning and really upregulate your metabolism and keep your blood sugar stable so you're not craving things. I've seen a lot of people, they consume a high protein, high fat breakfast, like some type of smoothie or a plain low fat Greek yogurt with a little bit of nuts and seeds in there, or an omelet of some kind with avocado. Eating protein and fat in the morning, people have noticed that it radically transforms their cravings, the food they end up consuming, the decisions they make when it comes to eating later during the day, reaching for sweet things, etc. So setting yourself up with a high protein, high fat breakfast really is a good habit. The third one is to focus on nutrient deficiencies. Most people aren't eating enough vegetables. They're not getting enough vitamins and minerals. They're not getting enough antioxidants. They're not getting enough omega-3s, and they're not regulating gut and intestinal health. Now, while I've said a lot there, supplements, although there's mixed emotions about supplements, are a really powerful tool when it comes to changing your well-being. And why do I say it's a powerful tool? Because how easy is it to take a couple of pills? And now this doesn't solve your whole situation, but as one habit to master, it can radically transform your well-being, your cravings, your nutrition, etc. So a couple supplements that are often recommended in the beginning of someone's journey could be a good quality multivitamin, multi-mineral, could be a good quality fish oil, omega-3s to reduce inflammation, and could be a good probiotic for gut health. And these three supplements, a multivitamin, multi-mineral, a probiotic, and an omega-3 fatty acid, for a lot of people can set them on the right path. Now, it's not a end-all be-all, and it's not going to solve everything, but as a first step to reduce inflammation, to give your body vitamins and minerals, to give your body better bacteria for gut health. Wow, that's going to radically transform your well-being and put you on a good trajectory to make other positive changes. So supplements are really a tool in your toolbox. But think about it for a second. What's easier, to take a multivitamin, fish oil, and probiotic, or to start eating more fruits and vegetables, eating fermented foods, and eating more fish? While those three things from whole foods will give you results, it's much harder to integrate all of that versus to take a couple pills and supplements. So again, I'm not saying don't eat whole foods. I'm saying in terms of transforming your life, do one thing at a time and make your life as easy as possible. When it comes to successfully implementing a change, you want it to be easy. And asking yourself the question on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being this is impossible for me to implement, 10 being I'm very confident I can implement a change, you want your level of confidence to be 8, 9, or 10. And when it comes to the supplements I was referring to, it's quite easy to take a couple of pills and be at an 8, 9, or 10 in your confidence level versus to cook salmon and integrate flax seeds into your nutrition and have fermented foods like kimchi and different types of things like that. And, you know, it's a little bit more complex. So to kind of summarize, one thing at a time, less is more. Focus on mastery, think long-term, be patient, less is more. Find your weakest link, focus on that, do that for 21 to 30 days, And if you do that month after month, things will accumulate, compound, and summate exponentially, and actually lay the foundation for you transforming your health and well-being in a sustainable way and becoming more conscious with your nutrition and ultimately becoming more of a conscious leader. So to fit nutrition into a 45 to 60 minute talk is quite challenging. And I know I said a mouthful there, no pun intended, but I wanted to really touch on some of those key pillars and concepts and kind of finish with a couple tactical things that you can do. And this habit-based nutritional change philosophy that will dictate and determine more long-term results versus short-term results. So I really invite everybody to rethink diets and to rethink nutrition and rethink how to actually have real lasting change in their life by being more aware of what they're putting in their body, not restricting themselves and depriving themselves, but going deep on a journey of self-exploration when it comes to you and your relationship with food. So I hope you found this information enlightening. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to serve you guys and spend some time with you guys this afternoon.